Hi, this is Nerdy Exotical. Welcome to my channel. Today I want to talk about a cultural topic, and that's going to be buying in to your community. Owning where you are and reaching out and expanding beyond your immediate ethnic or racial group. You may have heard about the recent story in New
Parking
York
spot in Queens turns violent. A resident
about
in
this
the
woman who
Ridgewood
got
neighborhood
attacked
says one of her
over a
neighbors used
parking
a garbage
spot.
can to try and save a parking spot on the
This is
street.
not
And when she couldn't find
something that
anywhere
we would
else to
consider
park,
smart social behavior. This is tribal think.
Parking spot
As
in Queens
exoticals,
turns violent.
we might not be completely exempt from tribal think or group think, but I do think that we naturally have a bit of a buffer just because of our upbringing necessitating us needing to move through different groups. What's really important right now, especially with all these different forces going on, whether you're talking about anti-immigration sentiment, large numbers of people being displaced and moved on across, not just in America, but all over the spectrum, in all parts of the world. There are people moving from one area to another, and whether it's Syrian refugees or people from California, it is causing a bit of angst. It's called a different name, whether it's gentrification or um, a migrant crisis. You're getting the same cultural angst that people are coming in and changing things. So, how particularly do you resolve this kind of issue? I think there's no easy answer, but the simplest thing I think is to make the mindset that you're going to buy into the community that you're trying to become a part of. This means reaching out past your comfort zone, integrating yourself into the community, or if you're already in your community of choice, um, maintaining and strengthening those ties, not just within your own ethnicity, but outside of it as well. Like, for example, I got hired when I was in college doing my undergrad. I got hired by this Pakistani family. I'm not remotely Middle Eastern. I have no ties to them, but they decided to hire me. Um, and they kept me on as long as they could, until they ended up selling the pizza place that they hired me to answer the phone at. So that's just one example. Look throughout your family history, look throughout your community. Where do you have really good ties? Where can you expand on those bridges? Has somebody outside of your racial demographic given somebody in your family a chance? Expand on that then. Patronize their business. Make a point of shouting them out when you have the chance. This is really a good chance of just driving home that there is an American community. I know people make fun of America for not having an identity besides buying cheap stuff, but just driving home that there is a community, there is a shared history, there is rewards for participating in the system. It's not losing anything when when you integrate and become part of the community and participate in the community. It's more of a benefit than a loss. I think that's really what we need to drive home, not just to keep reminding ourselves that we do have a community, but also to set a good example for people who are entering our community, to let them know that if they do what's needed to be done, if they do participate and patronize, outside of patronize other places outside of their own community and make an effort, that there is a benefit to it. Instead of just being inclusive, there's a benefit to those cross-cultural exchanges within the community that makes it stronger. Of course, there's going to be some cleavage to this, or I should say some stipulations, and that's going to be um, make sure that you pay attention to how they treat their customers. I know there's a lot of clapback against some hair and beauty supply stores that are owned by people outside of the African American community, for how they treat their customers. So just paying attention to, like, how do they treat their customers? Is everything very insular? Do they hire outside of their immediate family, immediate race, if they're big enough to warrant that? I'm not saying that if it's a little mom and pop shop, they need to hire, um, you know, 5 different people from 3 different racial groups in order to like meet this qualification. But just use some common sense when assessing. And if they don't treat you well, then don't patronize their business. That should be obvious. They're Even if they're the only place in town, try to find somebody on Etsy. If they're not treating you right, don't patronize their business, and then they'll figure it out eventually. Vote with your wallet for what you're willing to accept. And if you see somebody selling outside of stalls or on a blanket, this is something you might see in Europe or something like that, I wouldn't encourage buying from them, because they could be selling without a license, and they are undercutting local businesses that are operating outside of buildings. I'm not saying that you have to act like this around a farmer's market or something like that, but you get the drift. If they're immediately outside an established business and they're hawking things, just keep pushing. I did want to bring up a positive example,
Altruism. That's how the actions of
and
these two
that
men were
would be
described by the mayor of A Coruña.
these
Ibrahima
Senegalese,
Jack
I'm
and
probably saying
Magat
that wrong,
Njai have been made adopted sons
migrants
of the
who
city
were
for their actions
undocumented
in
at the
helping a
time
man
did end up
during a
helping
violent homophobic attack.
a Spanish man who was
from
being
poverty and the hardships
attacked
of life in
for his
Senegal,
sexuality. So
planted
it
and
was a hate
nurtures
crime, and
value
they
in
did
us.
step in and
It is
provide
because
some
of
help,
them that we
and
are here.
actually became
If you want to go far,
adopted by
if
the
you see
city
someone who needs help,
and are officially
whatever it is,
recognized.
you have to
So
consider it.
they took the time to do something positive for their community. That's what we want to see. We want to see people buy in to their local communities. We want to foster um, exchanges beyond just our immediate race, our immediate families, our immediate social circle, because that makes communities safer for everybody. On that note, I do want to shout out a local business that helped me, and that is Brightly. They cleaned Brightly Bark. They cleaned my dog's teeth, and they did a great job. They speak Spanish, Portuguese, and English. So if you're in the New Jersey, Philadelphia, or Delaware area, definitely recommend them. My dog is so happy, and she smells so much better now that her mouth is clean. So that's what I wanted to talk about today. Like I said, find those cultural exchanges within your family, history, if you don't have any immediately come to mind, of people who've invested in you, your loved ones, or the community at large, and make some time to like check up on those connections. If and to foster new ones, maybe volunteer at the synagogue. If you have a Jewish friend, go to that new Indian restaurant and just take a chance and see how people treat you. You might make some new friends, and if you don't, well, then at least how things are between you and that particular person from that community. It doesn't mean you can't try fostering exchanges with people inside that community besides them. But that's all I wanted to discuss today. Until next time, I hope you move towards the life that you want with intention. Take care.